YouTube channel. It's good to be here again. How are you doing? Well, I am Christiana Akindele, your holistic health nurse, and today we'll be discussing on something very important. Stay tuned. Today we will be discussing psychological trauma management. What do we need to know about psychological trauma or emotional trauma, whichever way you want to call it? What are the signs and symptoms to watch out for? What are the things to do, the treatment and the management? Fun part of this vlog is that I will be discussing more on children because we want to prevent them from being traumatized. We will discover that an average Nigerian is being traumatized by the day. So we will be discussing more of this. Stay tuned. So what is emotional or psychological trauma? Is the result of extraordinary stressful events that shatter the sense of security or that makes one feel helpless in a dangerous world. Not only Nigeria faces this issue of insecurity, not only Nigeria is facing issues of the pandemic, the protests, but lately all African countries are facing almost the same kind of problem. But we are here to prevent our mind from getting exposed to the issues of life. We have three types of trauma. We have the acute trauma, we have the chronic trauma, and we have the complex trauma. Well, we could also have primary or secondary trauma, but most importantly, we must understand what kind of trauma we are having at the moment. When it is acute, in a short time, it's just for a short period of time, then if care is taken about it, it's just, it evaporates, it leaves. But if it is not well taken care of, it becomes chronic, it becomes a lifetime thing, and it is complex when it is ongoing and it is lasting, like it takes a long period of time to be resolved. So having established that there are so many signs and symptoms that we need to understand that, and we need to note to be able to establish the fact that we are being traumatized or we're going through trauma. One of it is denial. Everybody is saying, no, this cannot be me. No, this cannot be the issue. No, I cannot be raped. No, I cannot be physically abused. No, denial. Another way is anger. Some people are just unnecessarily angry, maybe at the system, maybe at what they're going through and all. Another thing is fear. Some people you cannot leave some people in a room. They escalate and they just want to be amongst people because they're afraid of darkness, they're afraid that something would come to harm them. Another thing is difficulty, shame, confusion, anxiety, numbness, guilt, hopelessness, irritability, and so much more. One of the trauma that happened to me was during the protest. I didn't know I could be traumatized by the Lekki massacre that went on that night. It got to a point that I was crying profusely, like I was being whipped. And little did I know that I was already being traumatized. I was already entering into the panic attack. And I just noticed I couldn't sleep alone. And I was just on duty. I was the only one on duty that night. I was hearing gunshots here and there, just around the area at which I work. And the sound of the gunshot alone is traumatizing, and that's we want to prevent in children, and we want to also prevent ourselves from being engulfed in trauma. Research shows that children are more vulnerable to trauma because their brains are still developing. I see some parents, I don't know if they are trying to pass knowledge, I don't know their motive behind showing their children videos of people being shot, or I don't know why we are exposing our children to traumatizing views. Our children do not need to be traumatized any further. The environment alone is traumatizing. So we need to create an environment that is well conducive for the development of our children. They don't need to see these views. We need to, and also we need to educate them ahead, because these children live out of fear. Why do you say a child of 2 years old or 3 years old that you just have a child of 3 years old randomly to pray, and the next thing the child is saying is, God, please save my mom, don't kill my mommy, God, please don't let my mommy have accident. The child already has this mindset of trauma. The only thing is, you are just wondering this child is, but no, a child that could lay that kind of prayer is a sign that something somewhere has told the child that going out there is not safe. Something somewhere, maybe a movie, has shown to that child that it could be killed by witches and wizards. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying your child should not see this thing, but you must educate them to know that these things are just fantasies, especially when it is a movie. Alright, let's go on. And also not differentiate between reality and fantasy, and so they experience heightened state of stress during terrible events, which further release stress and fear hormones. We don't need to expose our children to horror movies, to movies where they shoot and where they rape, all those things. They really need to be protected until they have gotten to the point of being able to differentiate between reality and fantasy. And this is very important for us as parents to note. And if we have children around us, we need to protect their mental health. Some children are unnecessarily aggressive just because of the information that has been embedded in their subconscious mind. That is why we have some adults, ordinarily we can't see any adult smiling in the street for nothing. It's not just the norm, and that is why we have to inculcate the habit of educating our children to be able to understand what they see and be able to interpret them appropriately. Management of emotional psychological trauma. One of the management is psychotherapy. I tell people who have been sexually abused, physically abused, domestic violence, victims of rape and all, people that lose their loved ones, sometimes they need psychotherapy. The first thing is not drugs. Some people got divorced and all of those things. The first thing is not drugs. The first thing is psychotherapy. We need to bring them to the level of understanding what life holds for them. Some people go from this point of being emotionally traumatized to being suicidal. So they need to understand their self-worth. They need to know who they are. They need to be able to overcome this phase. And they need somebody who is a professional who can help them and walk them through this phase. The next thing is support. They need friends and family to be able to support them through this phase. A victim of rape, sexual abuse does not need anybody to tell him or her that he is not good enough. Does not need to tell him or her that, you gave yourself. No, because they were just a victim of circumstances. So the next thing is self-care. Self-care, they need to be able to exercise. They need to be able to connect with people. They need to be able to see themselves and be able to affirm themselves positively. All these things are what the management of trauma entails. All right, we have balanced lifestyle. They need to be able to balance their lifestyle. They need to be able to socialize, as management. And it's a process. And another thing is they need to be able to connect with people. So as a counselor, as a therapist, as a friend, you need to be able to help them connect with realities, with life, with people, so they could easily get on and move on with life. Another thing is medication. There's so many therapies. We have somatic therapy, we have acupuncture, we have other therapies that could help them through this process, and we have medication. We have so many medications that could help them. And in this case, I would not say you should keep somebody who is emotionally traumatized in the home. A child can be emotionally traumatized. A child who is not always aggressive before suddenly becomes aggressive. You should, note that something has happened in the line. A child who is confident, who is bold, suddenly withdraws, needs attention, and you should be able to probe to know what exactly the problem is. All right, so this will be the end of discussion today. Do watch out for the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and don't forget to be good.